getting high with marijuana and hash. I was drinking alcohol. I was fornicating. Everything you could dream of that's wrong, I was doing it just about. And I thought it was okay. As long as I went to church on Sunday, that's the way it was. Then I was in a gang. I was in a gang in a town near mine. And my name of my gang was called the Thugs United. And the rival gang was called the Baby Boogaloos. It was headed by, I don't know, you're too young, you don't remember the old Dallas Cowboys, Tony Dorsett. Anybody remember Tony Dorsett? Okay, his older brothers were in the rival gang, you know, and we used to fight every weekend. In the book, it shows how they actually chased me out of their town. So I was doing everything, you know. I was a king of the dance floor. You all don't know how to dance. You think you do. In my day, you had to really know how to dance. In fact, you had to have talent in order to make a record and sing. Nowadays, you don't need talent. All you need is a really good synthesizer, right? So I was doing all of that stuff, and I was beginning to get frustrated. And so one day, my father was working at the Hilton Hotel. And there was a man who had joined the Nation of Islam by the name of Henry X. Ballou. Now, you know studied a little bit about Malcolm. You know that we, during the time, we put the X in front of our last name because as African Americans, we didn't really know what our name was because we had to inherit the name of our slave master. So Henry X. Ballou was talking to my father and kept inviting him to this place called Muhammad's Temple. And my father would try to go and he couldn't find it. So when my parents divorced, we were in Pittsburgh at the time. My father moved to Cleveland, Ohio. And finally he was able to find one of those temples. And he joined the Nation of Islam. And then about a month later, my younger brother joined the Nation of Islam, and a month after that, I joined the Nation of Islam. But let me tell you, so to set the pace for you, how I got where I am now, and what the Nation of Islam was, what it really was. Never mind what you hear on the news, never mind what these so-called experts on Islam, you know, it's amazing, there's so many people that call themselves experts on Islam, but they don't accept Islam. Believe me, if you're an expert on Islam, you become Muslim. You know, the only reason they're not Muslim because they don't really understand Islam. So I don't have any respect for people who are not Muslim saying they're an expert on Islam. That's impossible. The basic Muslim, the average Muslim is not even an expert on Islam. You know, we don't know as much as we think, as much as we should. Okay. So at any rate, the Nation of Islam began, I'm talking about the original Nation of Islam, not the new one that was reorganized by Louis Farrakhan, and I'll get to that shortly. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Okay, where did I leave off? What's the last thing I said?
Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland, Ohio.
Okay. All right. So my father moved to Cleveland, Ohio. My brother was just getting out of the Army. And so he moved to Cleveland when my parents were divorced, and my brother moved to Cleveland to stay with my father. I was still in Pittsburgh. So they went and visited Muhammad's Temple, and they both joined the nation. Now let me lay the groundwork to let you know what the Nation of Islam actually was. None of us who joined the Nation of Islam, and I say us, speaking figuratively, because it was growing very, very fast. None of us were looking for religion when we joined the Nation of Islam. The black people, the African American people, have been abused, tortured, so forth, for many years. We've been kidnapped, brought to America, and a great percentage of the Africans that were brought from America as slaves, a great percentage of them were Muslims. Some of them were agnostics, they didn't have a religion at all, but then there was a few Christians. But the ones that weren't Muslim, basically, that weren't really attached to religion too much. There's some reports, some historians try to say that a lot of the slaves who brought from Africa were Christians, but that's not 100% accurate. You know, the ones that had a deep religion were Muslim. There were a few Christians, but most were just agnostics. They just, you know, they figured that there was a God, but it wasn't important enough. It wasn't important to pray to him. You know, that's basically what an agnostic is. He doubts the existence of God, or either he doubts the importance of God. But anyway, and so on the ship Amistad, which was one of the ships that brought slaves over, the slaves were being tortured, being dragged into the sea when they thought the ship was too heavy and so forth. Then when they landed, they were beaten, chained, women were raped, a lot of the slave masters impregnated a lot of the female slaves. There was a lot of torture going on. Then the racism also began to grow because the Caucasian Americans looked upon the Africans as being less than human. And so that's why they felt like they had a right to own us. And just as a brief history of how you connected to Sunnah, the slavery was outlawed by Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You know, but he did have servants, but he treated them well. He helped them when they had to do work. You know, he made sure they were compensated, make sure they were, you know, he didn't. So anybody who was slaves, he freed them. In the owner of the Sahaba, he told them to free them. This is just, I'm going to connect this first, you know, so we understand the slavery issue thing. You know, because the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when Allah sent him the Quran, then he realized that we can only be slaves to Allah. We only have a right to be owned by the one who created us. And so that's the reason why he outlawed slavery. He said, free all the slaves. You know, but if you have somebody that's working for you as an indentured servant or whatever, make sure you treat them well. So, but the slaves in America, see the slaves in like in Egypt and so forth, they were ridiculed and disrespected only. They were made to do work that they didn't want no light-skinned people to do. But the slaves in America, not only were they ridiculed and disrespected, their names were stripped from them, their dignity was stripped from them, they were tortured, and then racist groups began to spring up. The Christian Knights of the Ku Klux Klan, they began to spring up. And their whole attitude was white supremacy. This important, now, this part you really got to understand, brothers and sisters, because then I want you to understand it'll help you understand the mindset of Elijah Muhammad when he put together the Nation of Islam. The African Americans were totally disrespected, but being lynched. Willie Lynch, that was his actual name, was the one who started putting together groups of Caucasian people that would traditionally, just for fun, hang black people from trees and lampposts and so forth. Sometimes they wouldn't be satisfied just to hang them from the tree. They would hang from the tree and put hot tar on them and set them on fire. And they did that for entertainment. You know, it's well documented history. And there's in fact, there's even some actual photographs of these things happening. So all this was going on. You know, black people being lynched, killed. Malcolm X's father was killed by the Ku Klux Klan. They tied him to railroad tracks and watched the train run over, you know. And so with all of that going on, the hatred for that race of people began to ferment in the hearts of the African American people, or those who were descendants of slaves. It began to, from one generation to another, that hatred for Caucasian people began to grow. So, okay? And that history, some of it, there's a little bit of that still going on, quite as it's kept. It's just not, it doesn't make the news. All right. So there came a man by the name of Fard Muhammad. He was from India, but he was taught, he gave the impression that he was an Arab from Arabia. He was actually from India. And he brought Islam. So he taught it to this man by the name of Elijah Poole, who changed his name to Elijah Muhammad. And he said, you know, Islam's a beautiful religion. Everyone should embrace Islam. You know, it's for the betterment of humanity. you know, and see, so Elijah Muhammad was looking at this man, Kafar Muhammad, and he was very fair skinned, straight hair, right? He was teaching him the Quran, you know, but Elijah Muhammad said, you know, my people, they're not going to accept this because they're not going to trust you. Because they've gone through too much. The white people have treated the black people too badly, and they have no reason to trust you. So I can't introduce you to my people and tell them that Islam is for everybody. But he said, well, you have to be able to tell them that you got this information from somewhere. So you have to figure out a way to make me the exception. You know, he said, I'm not Caucasian. You know, I'm reciting all this Arabic to you. You know, and so here's what it. So then Elijah Muhammad said, well, I'm going to have to readjust this message to make it palatable for the black people if I'm going to attract them, because they're not going to go for this. Everybody's all the same stuff. They're not going to go for this, you know, universal religion stuff. They don't want that universal. The people that I know that are frustrated and tired of being raped and murdered and pillaged and names being stripped from them, religion being, and whatever they had being stripped from them, you know, I can't go to this I got to readjust it to make sure that they're going to accept it. I got to fix it up. So first thing he did to separate the person who brought that information to them from anything else, he started telling the African American people that God, Allah, he said Allah came in the person of Master Farah Muhammad. Said this person, Farah Muhammad, is God humanized himself and put him in this person. You know, however, when Allah put himself in that human person called Farah Muhammad, then he also empowered all the black men to also be God. Yeah, it sounds confusing, but hang in there. Because we were loving the confusion. We were loving it. Because all we wanted was the bottom line, to have something that nobody else could have except us. So Elijah Muhammad started setting some strict rules as he began to organize and populate the nation of Islam. Then he began to set these rules. He said, no one can be a member of the nation of Islam unless you're a descendant of slaves from Africa. Now, some of the people from Africa, from the West and East Africa, from Gambia and Uganda, and so they would slowly migrating to the United States. They weren't even allowed to be part of the nation of Islam. You had to be a descendant of a slave to be a member of the nation of Islam, and certainly Caucasian people couldn't be a member. And so what he began to teach us was what we call the student enrollment. This is where the shirk really, really kicked in. You know, we know nothing about shirk. So we began to learn the student enrollment. The student enrollment was a list of questions and answers that we had to memorize to become a part of the Nation of Islam. And so the first question and answer on the student enrollment that we had to learn once we committed to joining the Nation of Islam was, who is the original man? And the answer to that is, the original man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, cream of the planet Earth, God of the universe. And that's what we call ourselves. Now you see the confusion already. If Master Farah Muhammad, if God came in the person of Master Farah Muhammad, whose skin is white, and he has straight hair, but God came in the person of him, then how do we become God of the universe? That every black man who has ancestors who were slaves was also God. But it made us feel good. So why did he, so his strategy was to do reverse psychology. The white supremacy or the white superiority that was being promoted by the Ku Klux Klan you know, and the Nazis and all of these other groups like that. The only way that he could fight that is do complete reverse psychology. So while we were being fed a strong diet of white supremacy, Elijah Muhammad began to teach us a strong diet of black supremacy, to reverse it. And then he said, the devil, he said, who is, so then the question number 2 in the student enrollment was, who is the colored man? Now during that time, remember that back during those times, the 50s, the 40s, 50s, 60s, and so forth, they called African American or black people colored people. So what we were taught in the Nation of Islam, question and answer number 2 of student enrollment, who is the colored man? The colored man is a Caucasian white man, Yaqub's grafted double, skunk of the planet Earth. That's what we was taught, and we believed it. So we looked at all Caucasian people as skunks and devils. That's the way we looked at them. So then Elijah Muhammad said, they love to see us disrespecting ourselves. They love to see us getting drunk. They love to see us getting high. They love to see us disrespecting our women. They love to see our women walking around with mini skirts on and their breasts showing and all of that stuff. They love to see us fornicating and committing adultery. They love to see us doing all of that stuff. The white devil, the white man, loves to see that. So what we need to do is upset them and make them upset. And we don't want to do anything to make them happy. So what we need to do is stop doing all of those things that they enjoy seeing us do because we're killing ourselves. That was the motivation. Nothing about religion. That was the motivation. So we began to join the Nation of Islam because we wanted to have something to ourselves, and we began to clean up our morals, not because we were trying to please God, but because we wanted to displease who we thought was the devil. So a lot of us quit smoking cold turkey overnight, stopped using drugs overnight, stopped drinking overnight. The women began to put loose clothing on and covering their hair overnight. But we didn't do it out of obedience to God. We did it for spite. Yeah, I'm not going to do nothing to make that white man happy. So I'm not going to smoke, I'm not going to drink, I'm not going to do drugs, nothing. We're going to protect our women. When I was in the Nation of Islam, we loved and respected our women so much. No Muslim, we called them Muslims still, even though we didn't have the hawk. No Muslim sister was allowed to be out after sunset unless she was being escorted by somebody. We protected our sisters. That's right. And even if you had a blood relative sister in the car with you, and it was just you and her, she had to sit in the back seat to show the respect for her. We answered each other, yes, sir, and yes, ma'am. No matter what the age. When I answered you, what's your name?
Chukuru.
Chukuru.
Yes.
I was yes, and you call me, I would say, yes, sir. So sister, yes, ma'am. We respected each other. Yes. And we were very, very serious about focusing on unity. You can make one phone call in the middle of the night. We trusted each other so much and loved each other so much. You can make if I need to have something done, I can call one brother in the middle of the night and have about 50 or 60 brothers at my doorstep. What happened? Nobody asked the question like, why you calling me? Say, what's wrong? You okay? Call me Brother Fred. You okay, Brother Fred? You all right? You know, everything all right? We trusted each other. And I don't know about some of the other temples throughout the country, but in Pittsburgh, PA, we weren't even allowed to eat candy because the sweets would take our edge away of being serious. We cleaned ourselves up and wore white shirts and ties just about every day. Sometimes we were even doing dirty work. One time we were moving people. Brothers showed up to help move somebody, put out a white shirt and tie. Clean face, we cleaned our face, and but there were some Sunni Muslims, some Muslims who knew the Sunnah, that were coming in our environment, used to come in our restaurant that were run by the Nation of Islam, and we didn't even consider them as being a real Muslim. You know, said, no, what you doing with all that hair all over your face, you know? We didn't even know what we thought Ramadan was every December, because we was taught that Ramadan was only in December, and we was taught the only reason we observed Ramadan to offset Christmas. We didn't know about, the revelation translation and all of that stuff. So a brother who was a real Muslim will come in, you know, in December when Ramadan might have been like in July or something, and order a meal and say, "Assalamu alaikum." Assalamu alaikum. He said, "Ain't you Muslim?" I said, "Yeah, what you doing eating?" Because it's dinner time. You know. All right, so there was many other lessons as well. But the beautiful thing about the Nation of Islam, and I'm getting ready to write a series of articles, a 3-part article called "Why I Missed the Nation of Islam." The original one, not the new one that was re-put together by Farrakhan. I'll get into that shortly. By the time I get to that part, it'll be after Salah. But the discipline, how we stayed clean, how we respected each other, how we guarded each other's morals, how we defended each other, and how many, oh, okay, I'm talking to college students, so no sense asking how many of you are single. Most of you, everybody here is single. Okay, but the single brothers who joined the Nation of Islam, they all stayed together. We rented a big house. Sometimes it was a big duplex house, and we called it the barracks. And all the brothers who joined the Nation of Islam who were single would live in that house together, chipping on the rent to keep each other straight, protect each other, not only physically, but protect each other's morals. You know, you get off of work at 8 o'clock, you should be in here by 9, you know, and so forth. We watched each other's back, and one by one, as they get married, they would move out. You know, we watched it, we looked out for each other. You know, we worked together, we cleaned together, we cleaned up the community together, we sold newspapers together. And if somebody bothered one of the Muslims, they were in serious trouble. Okay. Now, so you can understand the mindset of having something that was ours, not something that we would call our own. The Nation of Islam, we called ourselves a nation. The men were called the fruit of Islam, Baqi al-Islam, the fruit of Islam. But we didn't know that Elijah Muhammad, we called him Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you know, and I called him that even after the original nation shut down, but I recently stopped calling him Honorable Elijah Muhammad, not only just because of some of the discrepancies and indiscretions he was guilty of, but because if I wasn't going to make a habit, and I told the other members this, if I was not going to make a habit of calling my father honorable, I wasn't going to call anybody else honorable until I make a habit, because my father, not only is he my father, but he's the one that invited me to Islam, eventually came to Islam. But anyway, so Elijah Muhammad, we trusted him, and anything that he wanted, we would do it. Anything that he said that we should have, we tried to get it. He said we need to build a hospital and have a hospital all of our own. We need to have our own grocery stores, our own supermarkets. We need to have our own clinics. We need to have our own other businesses, bakeries, and all that. So those businesses begin to spring up. We need to have our own farmland. We need to have this of our own. You know, we need to have our own planes. So we put together, we bought a plane. His grandson, Sultan, became the first pilot from the Nation of Islam to be a pilot, commercial pilot, to fly a plane. So we were making progress. But the discipline that we had, the discipline of working together, the discipline of respecting each other. We had uniforms. We learned how to drill together. We drilled like in the army, you know, because it was really like it was paramilitary. Paramilitary. Yes, we had the captains, lieutenants, and all of that, squad leaders, and all of that, you know. And so we learned discipline and working together and respecting each other. That's what I missed from the Nation of Islam. Now, and all of that, we got that out of spite. And we looked up to him, but we thought, we didn't know how serious of an Islamic crime it was to refer to him, not only bad enough to call Prophet Muhammad Allah in the person, but we call Elijah Muhammad the messenger of Allah. And we didn't realize what we were saying. You know, we didn't realize, he said, sometimes we didn't even call him by his name, we just said the messenger, you know. And so, but everything that we did it out of spite, and we did it only because we wanted something for ourselves. It wasn't about being religious. We didn't even make salat. We know nothing about salat. We never heard the word salat. We heard the word prayer, but our prayer was just a dua. We didn't even know the word dua. We called it prayer. We would stand up and we would face the east. We wasn't thinking about the exact direction of the Kaaba, which from here is still northeast. We said we're supposed to just face the east. So we turn and face the east, put our palms up like this, and recite in English our prayers. We didn't know at the time that the prayers we recited in English, many of them was in the Quran in the Arabic. We didn't know that. Now we were exposed to Maulana Muhammad Ali translation of the Quran. And we were only allowed to read that translation. Only Maulana Muhammad Ali, not Yusuf Ali, not Marmaduke Pitcall, not Muslim Khan, none of those translators we were allowed to read. When we had those of us that had a Quran, we had to get the Maulana Muhammad Ali translation. And I'm gonna tell you why. Even though the Arabic was there, but we used to ask him, what's that funny writing on the other side of that line? He said, it's not time for you to know that yet. You know, stay on this side of the line. It's like it was a big wall that was there. But the reason why we was taught to only focus on Maulana Muhammad Ali's translation, because Muhammad Ali, or they call him Maulana, you know, Maulana, we know that's a title, it's not really a name, was actually racist. And the way that he translated this, the verse from Surah Taha is what Elijah Muhammad needed to fuel and to support and legitimize his grudge against Caucasian people. Because in Surah Taha, there's an ayat that says, on the day that the trumpet will be blown, he said, the guilty blear-eyed will be in terror. Okay? That's what the basic Arabic is saying, right? But Maulana Muhammad Ali put in his translation, the guilty blue-eyed, right? Blue is talking about a color. And so Elijah Muhammad needed that to support his racist slant of Islam, because we knew that it's very unlikely for a black person to have blue eyes. So they said the only people who could have blue eyes is that blue-eyed devil, that pale-faced white devil, that skunk of the planet Earth. And so it tells you right here in the Holy Quran that those are the people that's going to be destroyed on the day the trumpet is going to be blown. So he needed that. So he wanted us to focus on Maulana Muhammad. We weren't even allowed to even consider other translations of the Quran. But there was a few Muslims behind the scenes quietly who were beginning to study Arabic, but they couldn't speak up about it. One of them was his son, Wallace Muhammad. And sometimes he changed his name to Warathuddin, but he told me face to face. He said Warathuddin isn't really his name. That's all of us who've inherited Islam. He said that's who I am. I've inherited Warath, the inheritor of the deen, you know. And he said, it's because I asked him one time when I met with him in '84, and I'm jumping just a little bit. I said, Imam, I said, what do you prefer to be called, WD, or WDeen, or Warathuddin? He said, my name is Wallace. He said, but I said, but what about Warathuddin? He said, Warathuddin is what I am and who I am, and that's who you are, and that's who your brother is, and everybody else who has inherited this religion, and they're acting like they inherited. They enjoy the religion of Islam. So he inherited, and he gave us Dalil from the Quran. I believe it's Surah Al-Mu'minun, so 23, I believe. So I might be mistaken, but it's in my book. So, what we had was a religion that was, a way of life that gave us some discipline and gave us some structure, and it gave us something to do, some place to vent our frustrations. But we were contradictory because we was in a lot of fights when I was in the nation. But we beat up a lot of people, but we didn't have not one single fight against a black person. Against a white person that we said that we hated. We was fighting our own people, you know, left and right. We didn't have any patience with them, so it was a contradiction. So, as the Nation of Islam began to pick up more steam, then Elijah Muhammad began to show the courage and take his stance. And he would look the media in the eye, look right in the eye of the camera, and said, the white people is a race of devils, you know, and look what you've done. And he said, and when he tried to deny, we're not devils, he said, only a devil would do to people what you all have done. Only a devil would rape and pillage women and children like you have done. Only a devil would take somebody's name and all. So he looked him in the eye, he said, I'm a black man and I'm proud. So then the other black nationalists and activists, they begin to get their courage. The pro-black movement started from there. From the late 30s, the pro-black movement. Then everybody began to get courage. The Black Panthers, Angela Davis, all of them, Stokely Carmichael, H. Rap Brown, who later became Imam Jamil Al-Amin, right? Yes. And then the singers began to get on board. James Brown, some of you might be too young to remember James Brown. He put a song on that said, say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. I'm almost into the dance floor. And so that pro-black movement was sparked by the courage of this little man named Elijah Muhammad, you know, and the ranks began to swell. The ranks began to swell so feverishly and so greatly that now we begin to take notice. So then the FBI came in and started sending infiltrators in to try to figure out who was going to do something illegal to try to discredit the Nation of Islam. But we were very clean and we were law-abiding. You know, we just didn't want to take any stuff. We didn't agree with some of the things that we liked the idea that Martin Luther King was assembling the black people to be responsible, but we didn't agree. The Nation of Islam did not agree with his approach because we didn't want to trust anybody who didn't love us. And remind me if I forget somebody it's going to be way after prayer, after we do our prayer, to connect something I'm involved with. Many of you know Imam Siraj Rahaj. Okay. Him and I worked on a special campaign, you know. It remind me to mention that later. It's connected to what I'm getting ready to say right now. As the Nation of Islam, we didn't agree with trying to force somebody who did not like us to feed us. So we didn't participate in them sit-ins in restaurants. Martin Luther King had his people from the Baptist church sitting in, doing sit-ins in restaurants. We have a right to be fed. This is a good time to stop for Salah. Yeah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Somebody tell me where I left off.
You left off saying that the nation was not into begging for acceptance.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah. I like that part. So we wanted everything of our own. We wanted our own land. In fact, we wanted one of the states. We wanted America to pick one of the states and just give it to all of the black people. We just, okay, you don't like us, fine, leave us alone. Give us one of the states in the whole own area. We just stay to, you know, in other words, we didn't memorize any Quran, too much Quran in Arabic at that time. It was almost like lakum dinukum waliyadin, you know, you know. So, but anyway, we liked the idea of black people owning up their responsibility, picking themselves up by their own bootstraps. We did not like to force people who did not like us to give us stuff, especially food. So nobody from the Nation of Islam participated in any of those sit-ins at restaurants. Now think about it. If you don't like me and I make you feed me, what do you think you want to do to the food? So we didn't play that stuff. No, we didn't want to go in there. We wasn't going to sit in there and beg somebody to serve us who does not like us. Listen, I'm happily married. I got a beautiful Muslim wife, 46 years married this year, inshallah. I have no clue how she put up with me. You know. But when she's in a bad mood, I think she's the best cook in the world. When my wife is in a bad mood, who I love and who bore my children, when she's in a bad mood, I don't let her cook for me. Let alone somebody who hates me. She loves me. But when I walk in the house and say, what's for dinner? Rice! I said, hey. It's all right, baby. I'm fasting anyway. It's all right. You know, I'll eat me some trail mix and I'm good. You know. But I'm not going to go to a restaurant operated and owned and being cooked with people who hate me and say, you must feed me, and I'm not moving from this spot till you feed. I'm not on that page, I'm sorry. And nobody from the Nation of Islam was on that page, you know. So we didn't deal with that. So we opened our own restaurants. So that's where I met my wife. She was already in the Nation when I met her, and she was a waitress in a restaurant called the Shabazz Restaurant. That's where I met her at. Okay. Eventually we became the managers and ran the restaurant. All right, so here's what made me, I'm gonna show you the value of the transition. And I'm gonna show you the reason, and I'm gonna explain this to you so you'll understand why, even though that I disagree with the Aqidah of the Nation of Islam, I disagree with what Farrakhan is teaching, and most of it, you know, the black nationalism stuff, he's right on point, you know. But to connect it with religion and Islam, I got an issue with that, you know. However, the Nation of Islam, the beauty of it and what it taught me, what I learned from the Nation of Islam, made me valuable to the community now. The only thing I left behind is the shirk. You know, Master God came to person, Master Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. I left all that behind. All the rest of it I'm trying to keep because that's what I'm using, and that's what I use to build a community. So when we said, I only fear Allah, some of us don't understand what we're saying when we say that. I'm talking about those of us who come straight to the Sunnah. I don't think anybody here came through the Nation of Islam, you know. We all come straight. Some of us were born Muslim. We don't know nothing but Islam. Some of us were born, your family, your grandparents, your aunties, your uncles, they're Muslim. And all you know, you never tasted pork, you never drank alcohol, you know. So you didn't come down the road that I came down, you know. The Nation of Islam, I have to respect that, not that I agree with it, because Allah says in the Quran, in Surah An-Nisa, He said, reverence the wombs that bore you. There's many messages there because you can't put limitations on the Quran. One of the main things, and I usually speak for that same ayah when I'm giving nikah ceremony. And I said, reverence the womb that bore you. In other words, when you look at a woman, you're supposed to think about your mother. That's the kind of respect we should have for our sisters. When you see the sisters here, you should respect them and make sure they're okay. We're responsible. What's my dalil on that? And I hope y'all don't mind if I give you a little bit of Islamic teaching in this connection, because you want me to tell you about history. Allah says in the Quran, He says, men are protectors and maintainers of women. Right? Right? That's what He says? You a man? You a man? You a man, right? That means that your duty, according to Allah, is to protect and maintain the women. Make sure they're protected, even if you have to protect them from themselves. And to maintain them, make sure they got what they need. The single sisters, the single mothers, the widows, they're not supposed to be suffering. You know, we as men supposed to make sure they're okay. It's nighttime, right? We don't love these sisters enough, man. When it's nighttime, when this program's over, these sisters shouldn't be going outside to their cars by themselves without somebody making sure they're okay. What happened in Washington, D.C. this time, about a year or so ago? The kids were left out to go to IHOP or somewhere to do their sahur meal or something, and was going back to the masjid, and this guy jumped out of the car and was after chasing after one of the sisters, and the brothers got scared and left. Ran and left the sister. The sister was murdered by the guy that jumped out the car. We didn't play that in the nation. So I left all that stuff behind. So when we say I only fear Allah, you know what that meant? That made us work hard. When I say I only fear Allah, that means I'm not afraid to be hungry. I'm not afraid to get tired. I'm not afraid to get sick. I'm not afraid to get cold. I'm not afraid to be broke. I only fear Allah. That was my attitude. And I brought that with me to the Sunnah. And there were many of us that when the original Nation of Islam shut down in 1975 and Imam W.D. Muhammad took over, many of us hung on to that part and we kept working. A lot of them stopped working. A lot of us stopped working. Sure, he made history. Imam W.D. Muhammad, he gave Shahada to over 200,000 people in 9 months. That'll never be repeated again. I was one of those people. But I came with enthusiasm, me and my wife. We came working. We came into the Sunnah working. We weren't afraid to be hungry. y'all didn't even notice it. Even my beautiful host, don't feel guilty now, but you didn't even notice. What did I say this morning? I got up in fact, I didn't even go home last night. I spent the night in the Masjid At-Tawhid because I wanted to ask Allah for some stuff. So I got up this morning in the masjid, got cleaned up, helped the brothers clean the masjid, and make sure it was okay, gave my staff their instructions. I left the masjid, drove to Methodist Hospital, gave the Jummah khutbah to about 100 doctors, got in my car, drove straight to Bush Airport, got on the plane, came here, got off the plane, came straight here. Where did you hear me say I stopped to eat? And I heard the brother say, we got some cookies. Man, I'd rather be hungry, because I'm okay. Don't feel guilty or Richard answer. But if you try to give me something, you're gonna probably bring me some biryani anyway. I'm so sick of biryani. When I was a Christian, I had a beer belly. Now I got a biryani belly. but I'm okay. I'm just saying, let you know, because I'm not afraid to be hungry. This is about to work. My message that I'm going to close this with you tonight is more important than me eating. I'm not going to die of starvation. Nobody in the United States of America has any business dying from starvation. There's people that's hungry. There's people that miss a few meals. There's people that's malnourished because they don't have vitamins and they don't eat lettuce and stuff. But I'm telling you, no one in the United States of America is going to die from starvation. Now I'm going to connect that attitude, that disposition, to the Nation of Islam not wanting to do sit-ins at restaurant, to a special project that me and Imam Siraj is working on together. And if any of you are on WhatsApp, I'll send you a copy of the poster. That we don't believe that Muslims are careful enough. And what's my dalil? In Surah to Ali Imran, Surah number 3. Is there any Hafiz in the room? Surah number 3. Ayat 118. Take not into your intimacy those outside your ranks. They only desire your ruin. They will not fail to corrupt you. Rank hatred is already appeared from their mouths, what their hearts conceal is far worse. Right? Don't make it too intimate. There's nothing more intimate than a husband and wife. So no one should marry someone not Muslim. But what's the next thing more intimate than that? Food is going inside your stomach. So why would I trust somebody to cook food and give me food for me and my family, and they don't love Allah and His messenger? Now, if I'm on the highway and I say, oh, I got to take some food, I'll stop at McDonald's. All I got to do is say Bismillah. I'll stop at Cracker Barrel. I say, all I got to do is say Bismillah, it's okay. Then I get in the restaurant and interrogate the cook. Did you put any pork next to that? Why interrogate them? Prophet, peace upon him, said, he said, leave that which makes you doubt for that which does not make you doubt. So if I got to interrogate them, if I have doubt about them, and I already know they don't love Allah and don't love His messenger, peace be upon him, why do I want them to fix my family some food? I'm not going to die of starvation if I wait till this evening or wait till tomorrow to eat. I'm feeling a little bit hungry. We got to pull over on the rest stop. There's a McDonald's over there. There's a Wendy's over there, you know. So what? I'm not going to die. I'm going to be patient. I'll keep some grapes and apples or something in the car. And when I get to some place where somebody's cooking who loves Allah and His messenger, yeah, you can cook for me then, and you better be smiling. Because even if you love Allah and His messenger, you're in some bad mood, I don't want to eat your food. So that's why me and Imam Siraj are on a campaign to encourage the Muslims to avoid eating in restaurants where the people who run and work in the restaurant don't love Allah and His messenger. But if they don't love Allah and His messenger, what incentive do they have to care about me? It's not always about pork. It's other stuff that they do in the kitchen that we can't see because they don't have no scruples, no Islamic scruples. You see? So I got that from the nation. I got me and my wife. We have the tenacity to work hard. We got that from the nation of Islam. You see? That was the value of the nation. That's what it taught me. So that's the road that I traveled to get to the Sunnah. So I got to respect that. That's the womb that bore me. The church people, I came from the church. I don't disrespect them because they're incorrect. I used to do security for Muhammad Ali. And he just called me Brother Fred. So we was walking down the street. We had a big crowd. He always attracted a crowd. And he told me, no, y'all leave us alone. Me and Fred going for a walk. It's me and Muhammad Ali. So we were walking down the street. This is in my book, but I'm gonna give you little tidbits of my book. You gotta buy that book. So we were walking down the street, and he heard some music coming from somewhere. And we looked over, and there's a little raggedy storefront church. This is connected to what I'm telling you about the history. And so he stopped and looked over at the church and looked at me. I said, no, champ, you ain't gonna do what I think you're gonna do. No, he said, come on, let's go. So we walked inside that little raggedy church, walked down the middle of the aisle. The choir was up there singing. As soon as we walked in the door, they forgot the words of the song and everything. But it just so happened to be 2 seats right down front. So we went down and sat down right down front. He just sat there. But they was all messed up. So after about maybe 10 minutes, he nudged me and said, come on, Fred, let's go. I did what I came to do. So we got it and we left. I said, man, why are you going there wasting time with them? He said, that was not a waste of time. I said, those are my people. They're Muslim, they just don't know it. He said, you gotta love them, you know? Yeah. And Stevie Wonder, I was doing some work with Stevie Wonder one time. We was in West Hollywood, we were having dinner, you know, and so I asked him one time, we was having dinner, so when he was eating, I said, Steve, I need to ask you a question. I'm really curious. He called me the Bull. He called me Bull because both our birthdays is in May, you know, the Taurus. So he said, what's up, Bull? I said, let me ask you, what's it really like being blind? This is still connected to what I'm teaching y'all. He said, well, to be honest with you, Bull, you know, sometimes it's boring, you know, but most of the time I see my blindness as a blessing because I don't have any choice except to judge people by their character. So I don't have a choice. He said, and you will find that most people are beautiful. And he went right back to eating. It was phenomenal. My point is that what I learned from the nation, the good that I kept from the Nation of Islam, I used that to advance the Muslim community under the banner of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah. And I'm not afraid. I'm not afraid to work without having help. I'm not scared. And my wife is the same way, and there's plenty more. Next time y'all invite me back, sisters, I gotta bring my wife, and you gotta talk to her. She's brash and she's strict. And some of the sisters over at the other masjid, when I spoke there a few weeks ago, they got mad at her because she scolded them because they wouldn't letting their children, they wouldn't make their children respect the masjid, you know, because she defends the house of Allah wherever she goes. She said, what's the matter with you? It's the masjid. Why are you letting them disrespect the masjid? It's Allah's house. They got mad at her, you know. Anyway, so what we learned from the nation of value, we use that. And so fast forward, we're gonna open for questions shortly. I know you got some. Fast forward to where I am right now. We were able to ignore our own comfort for the sake of the mission. In the Nation of Islam, we were trained. We only ate 1 meal a day in the nation. Nobody had a meal before 4 o'clock in the afternoon when we was in the Nation of Islam. We didn't, and in the nation, unlike some brothers in the Sunnah, in the Nation of Islam, if you smoked cigarettes, you weren't even considered a Muslim. Here, man, brothers, they brag about their Marlboros and stuff, fall out their pocket while they're making salat, you know. You know, break fast at Ramadan and run outside and puff while everybody else making Tarawih prayer. You know, in the Nation of Islam, if you smoke, you wouldn't. In fact, you get kicked out of the temple if you got smoked. You got caught with a cigarette. You got kicked out for a while. They called it Class F. Yeah. So all of the things that the nation taught, we used that in the Sunnah. You know, and we had the courage. We had the courage to move forward whether we had help or not. Because we only feared Allah. Imam Siraj Wahaj, I give you a history about him. Imam Siraj was also a minister in the Nation of Islam. I made minister, and I've been right before they gave me my special fez with the special crescent on it. Elijah Muhammad passed away, and I was so mad at him for dying, you know. Imam Siraj Wahaj, to show you how close connected, and Allah could, and only Allah could have decreed it. There was a minister in the Nation of Islam by the name of Ali Rashid. Right? Imam Siraj Wahaj's name was Minister Jeffrey 12X at the time. He was his assistant in New York City, at the Malcolm Shabazz Mosque. When the minister got set down, and the Imam got set down in Cleveland, Ohio, Ali Rashid had to drive back and forth from New York to Cleveland to run both masjids. So Imam Siraj Wahaj, or Jeffrey 12X, was his assistant in New York, and a brother by the name of Bernard 2X was his assistant in Cleveland. Bernard Tuex was my father. They didn't even know each other at the time. And they didn't even find out till I started writing my book that they were working under the same leader. Right? Okay. But so Imam Siraj, the reason I mention him in this is because he had the courage and tenacity. He saw a problem in Brooklyn, New York, the Bedford-Stuyvesant area. It was saturated with drugs so bad that the police had no control. So Imam Siraj found he got about 25 brothers, and they were Muslims that had the courage he had, and the ones that didn't come from the nation, he taught them that and influenced them to have that courage, and they did what is called a 40-day patrol in the Bedford-Stuyvesant area, and cleaned it up, shut down the drug houses, and made it so beautiful and safe. Businesses started moving into the area, and now a lot of the businesses shut down when the loudspeaker on top of Masjid At-Tawhid calls the adhan. It's a beautiful, safe neighborhood. So he started that masjid with a few brothers. Now the masjid is so full, all 5 prayers the masjid is full. You know, most masjids you get a few brothers for Dhuhr, a few brothers for Asr. All 5 prayers, if you wait until the Iqamah, you're praying out in the hallway. That's how much dawah he's given there. He started that masjid from zero with the courage that he wasn't worried about whether he had help or not. That he knew that he walked into them drug houses with the courage, the same courage we had in the Nation of Islam. I'm not scared of you. I'm not scared of your guns, because I know that the only way your bullet can kill me is if Allah has written my name on that bullet. Yes. I took that same courage when I was in Cleveland, Ohio, and I was the wakil for single sisters looking for a husband. And this sister married this brother without my permission. He pulled a gun on her and said he was going to kill her if she tried to leave. She was able to get to the phone and call me. I went over to a couple brothers and said, look, you brothers, take the sister outside. I don't want her to see what's getting ready to happen. And I said, the only way you're going to shoot her, the bullet had to pass through me. Come on, shoot me. Shoot me. Because I'd rather be dead right now. I would rather die than see you disrespect this sister. That's how I am about sisters. I got that from the Nation of Islam, defending the Muslim sister. He got so scared he screamed and threw his gun down. He had a gun, one of them old-fashioned cowboy 45 revolvers. You could spin the barrel like that. It looked pointing at me. I said, shoot me, shoot me. Because you're the only way, because if I'm going to die, Allah has already decreed this moment for me. And I can't change it, neither can you. And that bullet cannot kill me unless Allah has written my name on it. And what's the proof of that? Because one of the imams that trained me, named Imam Clyde Rockman, may Allah forgive him, says and give him paradise, he was shot through the head while he was a minister in the nation in St. Louis, Missouri. The bullet stayed in his head for 43 years. He died from gout with a problem with his leg a couple years ago. So you can't die no matter what you do unless Allah decrees it. So yes, the nation taught me I only fear Allah. I had the wrong perception of Allah. I was seeing a physical man. I had a picture of Master Farad Muhammad on my wall, him reading the Quran. I didn't even realize how contradictory that was. If that's God, why you got to read the Quran? He's the one that wrote it. And I had this picture on my wall say that's God in person. A white man, and I said white man's a devil, and it's supposed to be God, and he got to read the Quran because he can't remember it. He's the one that wrote it. So I didn't realize the contradiction. But I was at the bottom line. I wanted the bottom line. I wanted something to give me the inspiration, the motivation to stay away from the drugs and the alcohol and playing with the girlies and to use clean language and to keep myself clean. I wanted that, and I got it, and I hung on to it. Yes. So when I brought into the Sunnah, I still am strict in my masjid. So this masjid started, Masjid At-Tawhid, and this is a plug for those of you that got a little bit of money because we still need help. I went into an area where there's 100 churches and no masjid. And one of the churches closed down that was built in 2005. It started in 1948, it had a little small frame building. Then they built a new building in 2005. The preacher who built it did not know that he was building a masjid. He thought he was building a church. He lost the church. I bought it. And I did the same thing I'm doing now to pay for it. Less than 2 years, we paid for it almost $500,000, traveling around America and around the world. In Kuwait, they call me the microwave imam because they only gave me 5 minutes to speak at 25 different masjids, and I raised $300,000 and paid off the masjid from 5-minute talks, by the grace of Allah. So that little frame building that was started in 1945, the late 1940s, when the church first started, we were going to tear it down. But the law didn't let me tear it down. We cleaned it up, painted it up, renovated it, fixed it up, prettied it up, and gave it to the sisters. We call it the Muslim Women's Center. They got 15 sewing machines in there. They got aerobics machines. They got a dormitory that sleeps 4 women. They got their own private kitchen. They teach the halakas in there. Right now, while I'm hitting there, they're having a sleepover there tonight because the whole place is fenced in, and some of the sisters want to spend the night in the women's center. Yes. But that started, and the masjid is operating very well. Started with 2 brothers, couldn't even have Jummah prayer. Now there's almost 200 people praying Jummah prayer there. Started it from 0 with the courage. Where'd I get that courage? From the Nation of Islam, by the grace of Allah, through the Nation of Islam. Because with is a brother from Jordan that showed me the property. He said, the property is on sale for $425,000, but I know somebody that'll loan you $325,000 if you can prove you can raise $100,000 in 60 days by yourself. He'll loan you the rest interest-free. So you think you can do it? Had I not gone through the nation, and any of you had been there with me, you'd say, oh man, that's impossible, you can't do that. But I said, inshallah. I went home, prayed to Hajj, I got up, and before my deadline was up, I had raised every penny of that money by the grace and mercy of Allah. Courage. You know how much money I had in the bank when he told me and he gave me that deal? $130. And I still said, inshallah. You know why? Because I did not fear poverty. I did not fear not having enough money. I did not fear not having enough help. I knew that it was for the love and pleasure of Allah, for the benefit of the community, and for the generations yet unborn. Now Masjid At-Tawhid is the talk of the country. They call it a miracle masjid because no one will support us. Some of the immigrants that got money, that moved into Texas and Houston, said don't put no masjid there. Nobody would want to live there because the Muslims won't want to go there because this neighborhood is too dangerous. The neighborhood is too much crime there. But I walked the streets, and when I looked into the eyes of the people, my brother, I saw me from yesterday. When I saw them, the thugs and the gangsters and the prostitutes and the drug dealers and the drunkards and the people that had no religion and the people that believed in church and they were hopeless, they didn't have any hope. That was me from yesterday. I said, if Allah saved me, if Allah brought me out of shirk into Islam, because Allah saw the potential in me, that's why he saved it. How many of you memorize Surah Al-Fil? Anybody memorize Surah Al-Fil? Huh? When does Allah say in the English translation, he opens up, don't you see how he dealt with the companions of the elephant? Right? How that wicked plan went astray? At that time, had we been there, this is connected to what I'm telling you. Had we been there, we know that when Abraham sent his elephant named Hussein down there leading the army to tear down the Kaaba, at that time the Kaaba was contaminated with 360 idols. Had we been there, we said tear it down. It's contaminated anyway. Right? But Allah wouldn't allow it to be torn down because he knew the potential. And he saved it by he directed that elephant named Hussein to make sajda. Then he told the birds to throw rocks at all the rest of the soldiers, and they came down like bullets and turned it because he knew that one day that Kaaba was going to be sanctified and purified. Right? Any of you been to Mecca? Beautiful, isn't it? Don't you know that Allah could have destroyed it if it would have been up to us? Okay, take it back to the Nation of Islam. We're filled with shirk, right? We're filled with crazy stuff we were teaching people, you know? Yes. Allah could have destroyed us. He could have let the Nation of Islam be destroyed. Allah could have let the neighborhood that I lived in be destroyed, and my father who was in shirk be destroyed, and me and my brother be destroyed. But Allah did not allow that to happen because he knew the potential that one day these three will give dawah around America and around the world. And since that time, between the three of us, over 3,500 people have taken Shahada. Only Allah knew that was going to happen. Fast forward to Houston, Texas, in a neighborhood called the 5th Ward. It was so dangerous at one time, they call it the Bloody Nickel. Allah could have destroyed the 5th Ward. Way back when the boxer George Foreman was a thug beating up people for money. He could have destroyed the 5th Ward, but Allah knew that one day there will be a master that will rise up like a phoenix out of the sand. and be a shining testament to Islam. Yes, not only is it a masjid now, it's a community service center. We give free groceries and food and hot meals to the people. But more than that, we give hope to the people. We got all that because we had the courage that we learned in the nation of Islam. We're giving the people hope. When we go down the street and give out hot meals, and old worn-out prostitutes that beat their body up with sex for so many years, they've been used to taking off their clothes to attract men. They see hope now, and we teach them, honey, you got it backwards. You don't get a good man by taking your clothes off. You get a good man by putting more clothes on. And the thugs that used to beat up people, because we're there, and the tenacity we learned from the nation of Islam. The men that used to beat people down as thugs, instead of beating them down, they're lifting them up now and bringing them to the masjid. The Christians who thought it was hopeless, they thought Jesus, our Lord, is coming back. They come into the masjid and they ask us one simple question. Why don't y'all love Jesus? And we finish after 30 minutes explaining to them that Muslims love Jesus, peace be upon them, more than the Christians do. Many of them, they throw away their cross and take shahada and become Muslim. That's what's happening. We got that courage from the influence of the nation of Islam. And we're keeping it clean and beautiful. When you come and visit the masjid in Houston, Masjid At-Tawhid, you're going to say the same thing that everyone else says. Oh, I get a beautiful feeling when I walk in here. It's beautiful. It feels so good. You know, that's the spirit of Allah. You know, and we're working hard to keep it that way because we love our people. Now we're embracing everyone because now they're beginning to see. They, meaning anyone, no matter what their race or their creed was, no matter what their nationality or ethnicity is or was, no matter what it is, they see the beauty of Islam because we're showing them the very best that Islam has to offer. And that's what we brought from the nation of Islam. You know, so yes, I respect that wounded bore me. It's on the Dean show. If you know about the Dean show, my friend Eddie from Bosnia, he runs that show. And look on the Dean show, one of the MTV interviews I did. I think he gave it the title, "Is Snoop Dogg Really Muslim?" I think that's the title he put on. And he wanted me to say some things against Farrakhan. I said, there's no benefit in me blasting Farrakhan. No, just because I disagree with him, just because he's incorrect, I have nothing to gain from talking bad about him. I learned from him. He's one of my teachers. He used to sit with me in the Shabazz restaurant when he came down from Chicago. He used to sit with me and give me pointers in public speaking. He's one of my teachers. Yeah, we were friends. But I happen to disagree with him. He's still teaching that God came to the person, Master Muhammad. He got a lot of stuff wrong. But I have no benefit on talking against him. Plus, there's a lot of brothers and sisters in the nation of Islam that's been taking shahada and coming over to the Sunnah. So I don't have any benefit. Allah says the Quran that they have until the soul of the dying man reaches the throat. Till the soul reaches the gara. So we can't give up on anybody. We can't give up on it because we don't know. Because Muhammad the Prophet, Jesus upon him, said that some of my ummah will live their whole life as a believer and dies a disbeliever. Some will live their whole life as a disbeliever and dies a believer. And Allah knows best. So we don't know. Some people, Allah says in the Quran, some people were created to be fuel for the hellfire. And some people may be in this room, we pray there's not, that the only reason they're here is to keep hellfire hot. We should pray along that it's not us. Yes, the nation of Islam had its value, and I'm still utilizing the value that it was put in me and the influence of the nation of Islam. I don't preach about the nation when I'm giving khutbahs, and I don't refer to Elijah Muhammad in khutbahs, only in atmospheres like this, when you want to get clarity on what really happened and how did that transition take place. So in 1975, Elijah Muhammad died. The very next day, his son took office, but Elijah Muhammad made tawbah on his deathbed. He made tawbah, asked for forgiveness, and he took shahada. He took shahada and said, yes, and now you, my son, you teach the people who I've collected them, I got their attention, you teach them the real Islam. I can't take them any further. And then he died. That's what happened in the nation. And then Farrakhan, he also latched on to that. His name was changed to Abdul Halim Farrakhan for about 7 or 8, 9, 10 months. Then after in 1977, he decided that he wanted to reignite the Nation of Islam and start telling people Elijah Muhammad told him to take over the nation, which is not true. So he's doing all that. He's bringing worldwide attention to the plight of the black people and all of that stuff, and and he's telling the truth about the corrupted government and all that stuff. But we are responsible to teach the Quran, Ahl Sunnah wa Jama'ah, the purity of Islam. So yes, if you look on my bio on our Masjid website, you can visit our website. One of my hosts here can share this website with you. It says that I started my journey to Islam began with the Nation of Islam. Yes, it did. But I'm not a Nation of Islam teacher. I'm influenced by it, and if there's any good that I'm able to do in the community, I thank Allah for the road that I traveled, and I thank Allah for the womb that bore me. Because I'm influenced in a little bit of all of those teachers is inside of me. And that's why I'm getting so much done. Yes, Masjid At-Tawhid exists by the plan of Allah because of the influence that I had in the road that I traveled. That's the beauty of it. Yes. We got time for a few questions, and then somebody's going to try to take me to meet my friend. Anybody like to ask a question?
If
Yes,
anyone
sir.
wants to ask a question, oh wait, real quick. If anyone wants to ask a question out loud, we'll post the anonymous form in the Texas Fight chat, so you can fill on there.
Yes.
So you spent a lot of time with Muhammad Ali, may Allah be pleased with him. And so I wanted to ask you, what is your opinion on if someone is blessed with wealth, how should they utilize it when should they express it or should they keep it to
Okay,
themselves?
I already see where you're going with that. If you look on YouTube, I'm gonna try to find it so I can forward it to somebody. When I was in Tanzania a couple of years ago, because they flew me there because they built a school for poor kids. They named it after me, so they flew me over there. But while I was there, that's when Muhammad Ali passed away, and I was just on my way to the airport to leave by the time we were having the janazah, so I missed the janazah. But but I talked about him. The reason I referenced Tanzania because I did a TV interview while I was in Tanzania. And to answer your question, we should always focus on Sadaqah Jariyah. You understand Sadaqah Jariyah? It's sadaqah that you leave. It's called a beneficial legacy. Something that you leave behind that people benefit from long after you're dead, like planting a fruit tree or something like that. So Muhammad Ali, he told me, this is what he told me, it's not something I read in a book. He said that one of the things that inspired him to win, he first started boxing because he was mad at the kids that stole his bicycle, and then he realized that if he wins, people were going to listen to him, right? So he used a lot of his money given away to charities and so forth. He left a legacy, a beneficial legacy. He left a Sadaqah Jariyah. So people that have a lot of wealth, they should ask themselves the question, why did Allah trust me with this wealth? Because if you have wealth, it's an amanah from Allah. Allah's trusting you with it because anything you have above what you need belongs to the needy. That's what's called wealth in Islam. Wealth outside of Islam is, Rolls Royces and mansions and all of that stuff. But in Islam, if you have a little bit more than you need, that you have more than what you need, that belongs to somebody that needs it. My wife and I both in both of our cars in our sun visor, we keep a stack of $1 bills because there's so many people that's needy on the street. Everybody in every other street corner holding up a cardboard sign, and so we can't help them all, but we just this dollar's for them. So to answer your question, yes, if you get blessed with wealth, you should know for a fact that the only reason you got the wealth because Allah trusts you with it to do something. Because Allah says in the Quran, "Be kind to the wayfarers, be nice to people who need." Now, that doesn't mean you have to give them all your money, but as a Muslim, you got to be nice to them. Okay, let me finish. Before I get sidetracked myself, let me tell you what Muhammad Ali told me. So he said when he's in the ring fighting, he's thinking about what he wants to say to people because they'll listen to him. He said the only way they're going to listen to me is if I win, because people don't like to listen to losers. That's what he said. Look, Fred, man, people don't listen to losers. I had to win. So people will listen to me. So he's flying all over the world on talk shows and stuff, giving dawah about Islam. Yes. And the reason why some people criticize him because of the way his janazah was done. It was publicized and all of that stuff, and had all these speakers and stuff. But he planned that way back before he even got sick. And when he realized how popular he was, he said, when I go, I'm going to make it a massive dawah event. And wasn't it? It was one of the most highly watched funerals in the history of the world. You know, Muhammad Ali. You know, so when you get well, and remember, Muhammad the Prophet, peace be upon him, said, if you ask Allah for something that someone else will benefit from other than just yourself, Allah will readily grant it to you. So yes, those of you that have majors, give me a couple of examples. What's your major?
I was
Business major. Give me another example. Anybody engineer? Engineering, right? Right? Yeah. Okay. Any medical pre-med students here? Alhamdulillah, you're going to be a doctor. You're going to help somebody here. Okay. Now, what you have to do is you have to think about, why do I want to do this? What's my vision? And never mind those other motivational speakers that say, live your dream, or live it. No, I'm not on that page, living dreams. I don't want to live my dream. I want to live my vision, because all dreams aren't good. If a Muslim don't want to live his dreams, sometimes we get haram dreams from Shaitan, right? I dreamed I was with this pretty woman. One time I was talking in my sleep. My wife slapped me. You know, said, "Who is Stephanie?" You know, all dreams ain't good. Sometimes we dream we get killed. So why do I want to live my dream as a Muslim? I want to live a vision. Plus, when you're dreaming, that means you sleep. If you have a vision, that means your eyes are open. So I want to live my vision, right? So now I want to connect that, brother. You push the button when you ask that question, because you got to ask yourself, how bad do you want what you want, and what are you willing to do in a righteous way to get it? How bad do you want what you want? Sister, how bad do you want to be a medical professional? How bad do you want to? Are you willing to go through them 4 years and then go to school a couple more years after that and doing residency and all of that, and then take some tests every couple of years and do all of that stuff? And then have to risk seeing a patient, and you got to put a glove on your hand and run your hand up there behind. Are you ready for all of that? How bad do you want what you want? Or what are you willing to do to get what you want? You understand what I'm saying? What's the difference between, I like to watch Animal Kingdom on TV. You ever watch Animal Kingdom? You don't watch it because it's not entertaining enough, huh? You know the difference between a cheetah and a lion? The cheetah is way faster than a lion. But why does the lion catch the cheetah? Because the cheetah doesn't have anything that it's running to. The cheetah is a vegetarian. It eats grass. It stops and puts its head down. But a lion knows that cheetah is going to run out of steam after a little while. But the lion is running to something. That's its goal. Because that lion knows, if I don't catch this cheetah, my wife and my baby cubs don't eat. So I got to keep going. So I'm going to run until I grab that cheetah. When I grab it, if I just grab the tail, that baby is mine. Right? Yes. How bad do you want what you want? And what are you willing to do? What are you willing to sacrifice to get what you want? Huh? Yes. So what I wanted more than anything, I hope I can say this without getting emotional, because I'm really touched by this. What I wanted for that community called the Fifth Ward, to have a beautiful masjid where the women can be respected, and where everyone who walks down the street can at least say, walaikum assalam to somebody. I wanted that for them. I wanted to be a masjid, and then I wanted to branch off and have several musallas throughout the neighborhood. So when people drive down the street, they go another one of them Muslim places. But I wanted it, so I was willing. I wanted it bad for the people, not for me, because I'm almost dead. I know that you can't guess my age because I look so pretty. But I got a wife that's a nurse, and I do push-ups every day. But if I live another couple of months, I'll be 70 years old. I got 23 grandchildren and 3 great-grandchildren. I got grandchildren that's older than you all. My oldest granddaughter's 33. Now I'm just telling you. But I'm thinking about the generations yet unborn. So that's where I get my drive from. So I'm like the lion. I know that if I catch that cheetah, in my case, who is the cheetah that's running? Who is that gazelle? That gazelle that's running. Gazelle's even faster than the cheetah. Who is the gazelle? The gazelle is the people around America and around the world that got a little bit more money than they need, and they're trying to run from me. Don't you know? Ask Imam Siraj. He's going through the same thing. When he walks into a room, people start hiding their money because they know he's going to try to get some of it for somebody, for some cause. But you can run as long as you want, but eventually you're going to get tired, and I'm going to catch you. I caught some of them, and I raised $1 million in 2 years to fix up the inside and outside of a masjid and help the widows and the single mothers who was abandoned by weak zeros who call themselves men. I have an issue with men who abandon women. Y'all beautiful sisters, y'all my sisters, you deserve a good man who's a Muslim, who's praying, who's going to teach in the Quran, and who loves you and will respect you, and will not raise his voice and belittle you, and will help you clean the house and thank you for ironing his clothes, subhanAllah, and tell you that the money that you earn is your money to keep, and whatever he gets from you is considered a loan or a sadaqah. That's the kind of man you deserve. That's what we teach at Masjid At-Tawhid. Yes. So those are the people that I fight for as a lion. And I caught some of them gazelles. And I made them give up the money. I said, because your perception, you might want to think that that money I'm saving for a rainy day. It's already raining in the hood. It's already raining poverty. It's already raining hopelessness. But when they see me and they see the brothers on my staff and the sisters who go out with me with hijab on, my wife now wears a niqab now. She started wearing niqab to cover her face because she's so active. She has to interact with men. So to protect them from shaitan, she started covering her face. Because she has to, because I need her help. Because she's courageous, she'll outwork 5 men. Yes. So I said, okay, baby, listen. You look pretty with that, but you're so pretty. But the brothers, you know, shaitan might mess with their heart. See, you want me to cover my face? I'll do it if you ask me. Only if you're comfortable, babe. She said, I'll do it, not for you, but I'll do it for Allah. And when she married me, she said, 3 days after we got married, she said, I love you, but I love Allah more. And as long as you don't give Allah no problems, you're not going to have any problems out of me. And that's sweet, beautiful sister. May Allah bless her. So I wanted that, but I was hungry for this community, for the sake of the community, for the love and pleasure of Allah, but for the benefit of the community. So I worked, and while everyone else was sleeping, I was praying. While everyone else was eating, I was fasting. While everyone else was resting, I was working. While everyone else was laughing, I was crying. That's how bad I wanted for the people. That's why I'm here in Austin right now. Y'all needed to hear this. But now what you gonna do with that education? Huh? You're gonna say, oh, I got my degree now, and I'm gonna go buy me a big house. Don't make the mistake that I made. I raised millions of dollars for Islamic organizations and almost forgot about my father. Donald Trump gave the Veterans Administration the authority to take his Social Security check because he owed the hospital money. And I said, that's a shame, Dad. I'm so embarrassed. I'm a professional fundraiser by trade. That's how I built the masjid. And I forgot about my father. I said, you ain't got to worry no more for the rest of your life. However long that he's 94. Bad dude too. He gets up out of bed every morning to 30 push-ups. And you know what his complaint is? The state police took my driver's license. I can't get to the gym. 94 years old. He just retired from his job 4 years ago. You know what he was doing for a living? Taking care of handicapped people. Bad dude. Honorable Ali Khan. So my brothers and sisters, think about it. How bad do you want what you want? And what are you willing to do? And who do you want to benefit from your success? If you success, you study hard, make some good grades, get your degree, you start getting paid. Think about and the people who don't have as much as you're gonna have. Don't look down your nose at them. Say you should have worked hard like me. Maybe not maybe, your self-motivation is a blessing that Allah gave you. And because they don't have it, you still gotta look out for them. This is in my closing, because I really want to go. This is the United States of America. You're supposed to have whatever you want in America. If you haven't figured it out, if you don't have what you want, you're not working hard enough. But what about the poor people? What about the racism? What about the white people want to blame the black people. Black people want to blame the white people. Donald Trump want to blame the Mexicans. Democrats want to blame the Republicans. Republicans want to blame the independents. And, you know, the poor people want to blame the rich people. Rich people want to blame the poor people. And the Pakistanis want to blame the Arabs. And the black people want to blame everybody's in this blame game. This is the United States of America. You're supposed to have what you want. If you don't have what you want, you're not working hard enough. And if you're not willing to work hard enough, you haven't been blessed with self-motivation, get some. And have sympathy for the people that don't have self-motivation. Because I make dua for many of them people standing on the corner with their little signs. You know, I make dua. I said, don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. Don't give up that easy. Your ancestors might have been kings. Don't give up. Try. But in the meanwhile, here's a little something to help you out. But I'm going to give you something more valuable than this $2 or $3 or $5 bill. Think about who you are, what you can accomplish in the United States of America. If you work hard enough, you can have whatever you want. I drive a 2010 Ford. I know I can have a Bentley if I work hard enough. I'm not willing to work hard enough for a Bentley. I'm working hard, but that's not my goal. I'm working hard to establish a masjid, an Islamic community, so that children who are yet unborn will benefit. Just like many of us are living the reality of some of our ancestors that made a dua. That when my great-great-grandson and my great-great-great-granddaughter, one day they're going to go to America, and they're going to be able to combine and use their Islamicity to embellish their secular education, to show everybody how to be the best engineer, the best doctor, the best nurse, the best plumber, the best whatever, because you combine your Islam with that. That's what Islam is for. And that, my brothers and sisters, is what the Nation of Islam taught me. Quli kali hada astaghfirullah. La ilaha illallah.
Takbir. Takbir.
Before I go, let me tell you something about this takbir. When the Sahaba said takbir, they was really excited about something. Because they had accomplished something, that they were excited, they were motivated. So when one of them said takbir, it didn't go like this. Takbir, Allahu Akbar. When they was on the most famous battle, the first most famous battle was what? The Battle of Badr. You think they said, takbir, shake hands like this. Come here for a minute. Shake hands like this. One brother shook my hand so soft, I almost wet my pants. Come on, man. Shake my hand, bro. You're a man, right? You know, if y'all really enjoyed what I had to say, takbir! Yeah, but you made me think, yeah, I told Imam Siraj, you need to go see it, baby. Imam Siraj, I blew it over there, man. They act like they, you know, I gave them they had to take no-dose or something. Brother said takbir, like I'm Ben Stein or somebody, you know. Anybody, you love Islam? I see some khutbahs like that. You ever go to my khutbah? I don't want to mention no names. I'm going to give a khutbah, you know, I said, brothers and sisters, we must all be good Muslims. And we love Allah, and we should read the Quran, and those who come to the masjid get 27 times. Oh, come on, man. People want to be motivated about this. Isn't Islam beautiful?
Yes.
Act like it. You know, how many of you brothers here is already starting to think about marriage? Raise your hand. Beneficial legacy. You better get ready, man. Get ready. I think I really enjoyed it with you, brothers and sisters. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for the invitation. If you invite me to come back, please save a little extra money to get my wife down here with me. She would really love to talk to you, sister.